In this evaluation, I'm going to be exploring how I use, developed and challenge conventions from real media text in my production, The Meadows. The first shot that introduces the trailer is a long shot that clearly portrays a man wearing a long black jacket. As well as this, his facial expressions are very bland and straight, which all could be indications that he is the villain of the soap. This creates the plot and the narrative. By introducing a villain in my soap, it relates to props character theory. I also included a low angle to suggest that he is in a position of power and in a hierarchy. As the trailer progresses, it is clear that I developed this convention even more by portraying this character as a dominating character when he maliciously looks over and marginalises other characters. This specifically links to Cohen of marginalisation and essentially weakening other characters. This elicits how he is manipulating and suggests that he is the destruction of the town. To evoke this idea further, I filmed at a time in the day where the lighting was low lit and dull. This links to how I used dull and dark colours on my poster, which shows the tension and the drama, and ultimately made them link. However, this does contrast the magazine cover with the bright and colourful colours that were required for a magazine front cover. However, this was how I met the key conventions of a magazine. I further challenged this idea of presenting a villain by a split screen of a woman character looking back at him in disgust. This challenges the typical conventions of battling the villain in the soap. Because after my research, it was obvious that most soaps have a dramatic and unhappy ending, and usually the villain doesn't get defeated. I also challenged McRobbie's stereotypes of presenting a woman as a weaker sex. This was because I had a female character dominating the villain, who was a male, by having a shot of her looking down at him. The split screen could also suggest that they are star-crossed lovers and their relationship has ended brutally. I also show a woman at the start who leaves what is thought to be her husband, and by using the verbal code "it's over" and the semantic symbol of the wedding ring, this represents a strong woman who is independent and doesn't need a man in her life. This ultimately creates the drama of the relationship breaking down and ending, which shows the verisimilitude of the soap. Although, despite me converting the typical conventions, I did, however, use a damsel in distress, which alludes to props character theory and also links to the stereotypes that McRobbie talks about in his theory. This was when the young lady was presented vulnerable at the bus stop with the pregnancy test. It shows her vulnerability and her naivety. Throughout the trailer, I showed key scenes of the village in the background, which ultimately links to Kat's theories of the audience relating to the soap and the characters. I also specifically used a traditional English pub, a public living space that is iconography to London. I also included the meadows in the background, which directly links to the soap title and links to the conventions of a soap opera.